Donald Trump isn't the same man that he was in 2016. And that's not just politics, that's psychology. And what's happening to him is happening to millions of men too. Today we're going to break down the psyche of Donald Trump through a Jungian lens. This isn't about the left or the right. This is about power, ego, archetypes, and what happens when a man and the myth that he built around him starts to crack. And if you're watching this as a man, this story, it's about you too. This is more than just the midlife crisis. What we're talking about is the dissolution of the king archetype. When the shadow is unattended, it becomes obsessed with fear, with power, and with control. And we're seeing that not just with Trump and the top of the politics, we're seeing that with men all over the Western world. The world is changing rapidly. Old models are extremely outdated. The same scripts that we used to use to rely on about what it means to be a man are over. Things are different. And the more we hold on to them, the more we try to cling in desperation, the more of our tyrant is going to come out. So let's talk about that a little bit. In Jungian psychology, Trump embodies the king archetype, the president, right? He is in charge of the kingdom. The idea of the king is that they are supposed to be watching over a large group of people. They trade in their sword and their shields and their horse, and they become the instrument of the people. They put on a crown, they put on a cloak, they sit in a chair, right? They take a step back. They move away from the front lines of battle, and they sit and they have that panoramic awareness where they can see the system of what's going on. So whether you're the president or you're a father or you're a leader in your company, the king archetype is always speaking to you. However, when it's distorted, when it's not run by benevolence, by honor, by ethics, it starts to become the tyrant. It becomes more obsessed with loyalty, paranoia. It becomes fragile and becomes more terrified of being overthrown than doing what is right for the kingdom. And we've seen this before. We've seen it in history. We've seen it in mythology. And I see it in clients that I work with every week. Men who built their identity on being the guy, right? The guy with the answers, the guy with the power, the guy that never shows weakness, the guy that always has it figured out. He's a boss, he's a leader, he's a winner. But then life humbles them. Because we have this archetype, especially I think in America, where we're supposed to be able to do it all alone. Men leaders believe that they have to be the smartest, most capable person in the world, the best person in their organization, and they really struggle with delegation. What this does, unsurprisingly, is it builds the ego, right? It builds this sense that I am superior and the world revolves around me. We see this in our president, Donald Trump. But now he's in a later phase, right? He's in that individuation journey. This is in the moment where the ego or the mask is starting to crumble under pressure. And we've seen the shift. We've seen he's become less sharp, more erratic, and more fixated on his image than doing what's right for himself or the constituents, right? We've seen the rage tweets, the repetitive language, a deepening need for affirmation. This isn't about stubbornness. It's fear. It's existential fear. Because when your entire self-worth is built on power, applause, and dominance, things like aging, legal trouble, and rejection, it's not just painful, it's annihilating. It starts to destroy your very identity, the image that you built your entire life. And when you're in that position, the tyrant will come out and he'll do whatever it takes to maintain that image, even if it means destroying the people that you care about. In Jung's terms, the shadow, talked about that a bit, talked about it in other episodes. But basically, it's everything that we repress. It's stuff that we don't consider part of the ego. Now, it's not just negative things, right? But I think in this case, often with the tyrant, it's things like fear, sadness, insecurity, failure. And for Trump, the shadow is his weakness, right? It's him being irrelevant in the world. It's loss of his age, loss of his status in the world. He doesn't just fear defeat. He refuses to admit it even exists. That's why he can't stop fighting ghosts. And that's why so many men do the same. I've sat across hundreds of men who said, I can't be soft. I can't be wrong. I have to be the one in control. You might be one listening to this podcast. There's so many guys who believe that if we take our hands off the wheel just for a moment, the whole car is going to crash. There's such a tightness that I think so many men in America feel. We feel that the whole world is on our shoulders. And, while that does speak to a version of strength, it really speaks to loneliness. This idea that we can't rest, we can't stop, And there's a disrespect that no one around us would be able to pick up the slack. That's the shadow. And when we bury that shadow, we start to actually become it. We become more controlling, we become more angry, erratic, not because we're strong, but because we're scared. Again, we're more focused on preserving ego than doing what's right. That's kind of the key point that I'm trying to get across here. And what this means for you, if you're watching this, maybe you feel that too. Maybe you feel that quiet panic that if you let your guard down, the whole thing will fall apart. But here's the truth. Real power doesn't come from dominance. It comes from integration. And that means facing your shadow, owning your insecurities and making peace with your limits, and letting your inner king mature into wisdom, to becoming a wise king, a benevolent king, not a tyrant. You don't have to become like Trump. And you don't have to hold on until everything burns. You feel like your ego has been running the show. It's not too late to shift. Start by journaling about your shadow. And what do I mean by that? Write down those thoughts that you try to keep at bay, those insecurities, those fears, those thoughts that people are right behind you trying to grab and take what's yours. Things that you feel scared or insecure about. Maybe you are insecure about your body image, about your intelligence, about this one thing that you did in high school that you never were able to live down. Those negative experiences and memories are what fuel the shadow and fuel this tyrant archetype. Start engaging with it. Instead of pushing it away, instead of developing habits to never, ever, ever let anybody in, start to look it in the face. That's masculinity. That's courage. A therapist can help you with that. Of course, at Men's Therapy Online, we got plenty of them. Open, ready, willing. We're down to sit with you. But truly, a therapist can help you and guide you in those places that are too scary to touch. Doesn't matter how strong you think you are. Doesn't matter how much you can lift or how much you can squat. You are afraid of your shadow. That's just what it is. That's why it's your shadow. We will develop entire internal gymnastics, with levels of lies, ways to manipulate, to never engage with the shadow. Our whole system is built on not feeling and seeing and acknowledging those dark parts. So more often than not, we need somebody else. We need a professional to help shine light on those dark parts of our personality. But what I found is that it's often an illusion, right? It's like an optical illusion. Once you look at it and you really inspect it and you sit with it and you feel through it, maybe you cry, maybe you feel angry, maybe you feel disgusted, sad, weak, but then it dissolves. It goes away. These things that we've been really terrified about for our entire lives are nothing more than ghosts in the mist. The idea here is you need to admit the truth that you've been avoiding. Come at it with humility. In Buddhism, it's called beginner's mind. Be willing to learn, be willing to be wrong, and be willing to make a meaningful change in your life. So many men, and Trump included, double down on what has worked in the past instead of adapting to the changing environment. Doing the same thing but harder only gets you so far. And if you're listening to this, if you're having, a midlife crisis, it's probably because the same strategies that worked in the past, and I'm saying they were bad, they did work, but they are no longer effective in your life, and they may be creating more harm than good. So if Trump's psyche teaches anything, it's that the stronger the mask, the more you're invested in the ego and in the projection, the more fragile the man is underneath. But you can be the kind of man who involves. You can be the man who integrates, who leads, not through fear, but through depth, through courage, through really, really understanding how your mind works, how your emotions work. These are things that connect us as humans. And you don't need me to tell you, but it'll make you a better father, a better leader, and a better king. Now on the podcast, we're going to build that one episode at a time. So if you like what you're hearing, do all the social stuff, subscribe, share, and let's keep this going. Because by filling your mind with positive influences, finding role models, having the tough conversations with the people in your life, seeing it modeled, you're going to become the better man. You're going to become the man that you've always, always meant to be, and the man you deserve to be. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I encourage you, if you find yourself angry, upset, pissed off at leadership, at Donald Trump, at Congress, at our president, whatever it is, hold up the mirror to yourself. Because you're probably engaging in some of those behaviors as well. And that doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're just like them. It doesn't mean that you're one of the bad guys. I want to make that really clear. It means that you're ready and willing to do the work. So tune in next week. And we'll see you in another episode of the Men's Therapy Podcast.